Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming, and very soon to Dragons Dogma 2. As you might know, I've actually already played the game at an event held by Capcom. I've made 2 videos about that experience, but now it's time to talk general picture, the main important things to know going in these last few days of hype. Let's get straight into it. Right off the bat, the obvious but important thing to mention in a video like this is from the recent stream, Capcom featured a section of Dragons Dogma, and they had a bunch of new reveals that were neat to hear about. With that, they also revealed the new character creator that is fully available before launch as a sort of demo. Fantastically, it lets you keep the save to go into the full game with on day one. Genuinely, character creators are both blessings and curses, because if they're good, you can spend some serious time in there before you ever even jump into the game for real. This is even more so the case with Dragons Dogma, since you also have pawns, which are those AI NPCs that work with us, and you can mess with those and create those too. So if you're gonna try the game, I would strongly suggest you download the character creator, since it's free and we have this period before the game actually launches. I imagined that you would need to pre-order the game to get access to something like this in a classic marketing ploy, but no, you don't even need to have the game pre-ordered, you can just do it, and that's fantastic. So save time on launch day, prep your characters now, and you can jump straight in when you get to play for real. Next, let's talk about the class system so you have a basic idea going in. Currently, there are 10 classes known, and they're referred to as vocations in this game. Initially, you choose from the 4 basic vocations before progressing into an advanced vocation if you want to. To unlock these advanced vocations, you'll need to find specific vocation masters that can teach you if you deepen your relationship enough with them. I'll briefly explain relationships in a bit, but basically make them like you, and of course then they'll teach you. Originally, there was just 3 starting vocations in DD1. Now they split the Strider into Archer and Thief. We have 4 to begin with. They made them more unique and focused playstyles with their own identities compared to before, and I do like that. The other classic starting options though are obviously Fighter and Mage, but those aren't the only vocations. Some are exclusive to the Arisen, meaning pawns can't even be that vocation. Advanced vocations are, you know, completely unique classes, and I've personally played both Magic Archer and Mystic Spearhand myself. I have a whole video dedicated to those 2 and my experience with it, and thoughts about them on the channel right now. But the other advanced vocations are Warrior, Sorcerer, the super unique Trickster, which supports its allies and creates illusions rather than directly fighting enemies, or the absolutely insane Warfarer, which can draw from multiple vocations to combo their unique playstyles all at once. Certainly a vocation for the experienced player then, who can make the most of that somewhat overwhelming concept for a brand new player. But that's 10 vocations total that we're aware of or revealed so far. That could very well be what the game is going to launch with, but there is some hope to consider more from the original, like the Mystic Knight seemingly having its spot taken by the new Mystic Spearhand for the time being. And also say the Assassin, which essentially could be the Rogue in the sequel. The Spearhand seems to be all about its very unique weapon, whereas the Mystic Knight could use swords, maces, staffs and shields, which is certainly different. So we'll see if there's any surprise reveals. Now, a quick word on pawns. Pawns are extremely impactful AI allies that support your main character, the Arisen. You'll start with one that you create yourself, and likely you'll go for a pawn that's going to work well with your class plan. The most common first pawn choice, if you're not sure, is a mage, because it provides a lot of support, magic options, even weapon buffs for you if you aren't going to be going, say, mage yourself. But then you'll recruit more to form a party of 4 at a certain point. This allows you to create your own ideal party setup, filling what's missing in terms of roles and output. They're really unique, and they become more and more useful as they gain more experience by fighting different enemies. They'll learn their weaknesses, and they'll even call them out to you. And they'll be ultra helpful in, say, the questing system and general exploration, details outside of combat. They're very thought out mechanically, but they also just bring a good vibe. Like, they're interesting characters with a good sense of companionship. After defeating a pretty tough foe, one came up to bump fist with me in celebration when I was playing that playtest. It's just those little moments like that that are just neat. But also, compared to the original, I found my pawns just less annoying. You'll be hearing more helpful callouts more than hearing useless ones. For that, I'm very grateful. The original had tons of useful, annoying audio spam every fight, and it's something I always found really annoying in party style RPGs. Characters that are screaming the same lines over and over and over. So if, like me, if that was something you were concerned about, I did notice a nice difference. On that note though, NPC relationships. As I've made clear with learning new vocations, relationships are an important feature of the game. You improve relationships in various ways, but generally it's described as performing good actions that positively or maybe negatively affect the NPC's opinion of you. By doing that, you open up new options with those NPCs, so it's generally good to have a good standing. However, comically, there's some drawbacks if everyone loves you too much. The devs have literally created scenarios where multiple NPCs could like you so much that they fight over you just to give the player a way for that to happen to them, which is really funny and should be interesting. The idea that you can have too good of a relationship with too many NPCs, and with over 1,000 NPCs in the game, that's a lot of relationships to manage, mess with, or just ignore. It was also highlighted in that Capcom stream that NPCs can and will die, and that can be permanent if you're not careful. They showed this neat clip of drawing a griffin into the town to use the NPCs of the town to help with the fight. This brought up their courage levels, which is a system where NPCs have their own courage stats and levels. Depending on those, they'll rise to the challenge and help, or flee from the fight. The brave ones could be the ones you need to think about most then, because if they die while you're attempting something like that, you might have to revive them. To do so, you'll need to head to a nearby morgue with a wake stone in hand. There's a time limit on this, so if an important NPC dies and you let a bunch of days pass, you could miss your opportunity. Wake stones should also be limited, so it should be used wisely where it matters on an NPC that you feel you would regret letting die. Now, on the topic of the map and limited resources, I do want to reference how travel will work in the game. The game director stated that compared to the original, Dragons Dogma 2 is roughly 4 times the size, which is obviously insane. But bear in mind, this isn't said by just anyone. It's the same director who worked on the original, and that's going to be felt by the fans of the first game. So do be warned that fast travel is more limited in a game like Dragons Dogma, and you'll be mostly walking and running around. I found that wasn't so bad in my play session. Getting around areas can be pretty quick, especially if you're just sprinting about and ignoring whatever event or fights you bump into. Like in one situation, I encountered a Drake and a Cyclops fighting. I messed around with them, but it was a big deal fight. I didn't want to waste the whole session on it, so at a certain point I just ran straight past and that was no problem. It is interesting to hear the reasoning about this more down-to-earth, slower travel system. Their philosophy is apparently that travel in games isn't boring. It's just that boring games have boring travel, and that's become semi-standard. I think it's a very bold statement to say, and I hope it feels true after we've played, more than 50 hours or whatever, not just a few like I have. You do have some options though, like the stones to teleport to specific towns, which you won't be drowning in, but you can have them forged, or the common carts to ride around, though even then you could be interrupted and ambushed during traveling on those. So overall, it's a very big map, and they've really thought out its world design and really considered the travel options and how they work. I think if you approach this and the game as a whole in sort of an immersive perspective, you'll be fine. Speaking on immersive though, there is the questing system, which is pretty unique compared to, other open world games. As I experienced in my time with the game, NPCs will bump into you while you're out in the world, and they might ask for help. Or in a town, you might have people come up to speak to you about an issue they're having, and they see you're an adventurer. It's also possible that a bunch will want that, and they'll line up and harass you about it. So you can listen to it all or just reject it. But also your pawns are going to call out to you at times, suggesting, say, when you're exploring, they have knowledge of this area, and maybe they know a cave or something interesting nearby, and you can choose to say, hey, yeah, lead me there, or not. Pawns will also choose to help you with quests you're currently on, as a sort of guidance if they have information. None of that's going to appear on your minimap or with an aggressive marker system. You have to listen to the words that are said about the quest and consider your map and surrounding and the information you have, and actually engage with the world to complete your quest. I think that's great old school design, and is going to be way more immersive compared to running to a marker that's 600 meters away from you. That design has become very mundane, and I'm glad to see something like this. Now for the final topic, I do want to talk about combat. Again, I need to reference the fact that I've made 2 videos about my playtime with the game, and a lot of that was to do with the combat. I was able to play for a few hours and record all of it, but I was only allowed to make videos using that footage of up to 20 minutes max. So we made 2. That means I'm not allowed to show the footage of that in this video, and yeah, it's really unfortunate. These restrictions feel very arbitrary and weird, but it's actually not the first time I've encountered this. It's quite common at this point. I don't know why companies are starting to do this, but they are. In any case, I was very lucky to play early and get to make even the videos I did, and I do appreciate that, so I recommend those if you can. I do go really in depth. For combat though, just don't expect to be dodging and blocking to be a common thing. It's not a Souls-like. I found that avoiding damage was much more about positioning and movement mid-fight. Each class has a dash which allows you to kind of sprint super quickly mid-fight to avoid a return hit, for example, but each vocation should have its own options. Like the Mystic Spearhand had multiple teleport style abilities, and I used those to evade out of situations, or say a fighter can use a shield, so you can block with that. Warriors, and in turn warfarers, can use their big weapons to guard from attacks. So your vocation will have something to think about for that type of thing. For dealing damage, you want to keep in mind the incredible physics and target system this game has. Enemies have really detailed hitboxes. It's awesome. You can literally sneak between their legs to avoid damage, or topple them by targeting their legs or weak points. At one point, I knocked a Cyclops between a wall and a hill, and it couldn't quite get back up again, which is a very easy kill for me. When I fought a Griffin, I brought it down out of the air against a kind of tower wall, and it meant the NPCs and my pawns helping were forced to either hit the head or the tail, leading to much better DPS. So toppling enemies or climbing up onto them to their weak points is very important. Pawns will help guide you with advice, but thinking about these things yourself will make a big difference. Like if you stun and knock down an enemy, you can actually run up to them and use a heavy attack to perform critical hits, or if it's a small enough enemy, you could run up and grab them and throw them and have gravity do the work. But yeah, there are lots of details that I've talked about in my other videos. I think for now, I'm going to cut the video here though. While there are tons of topics to go on about, the purpose of this video was the main details I think are exciting to think about and are good to know about going in. Hopefully you're as hyped as we are for release. We plan to be covering it in great detail with lots of guides and useful videos when it comes out. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.